Well, let's go to our men and the panel to resume where we left off last week. One of our panellists, Gareth Ward, was volunteering, remember, to give me a lecture on property tax. He's the Minister for Families, Communities and Disability Services, all in good spirit, in the Berejiklian government. Chris Minns is the man whom Labor say could lead Labor to victory, but he ain't the leader, if he were the leader. So, here we go. Property tax. This was a big issue in the recent New South Wales budget. So to you first, Gareth Ward, tell us how this so-called reform would happen and what it would mean. Not in half an hour, mind you. You've had a week to do some homework.
Well, Alan, good evening. The way this proposal works is it reflects on a feature of our taxation system, stamp duty, which has been in place for more than 150 years, in fact, since 1865. And what Dominic Perrottet is proposing to do is to give people a choice. Do they want to pay stamp duty as a one-off when they enter the property market, or do they want to pay an annual fee over a number of years? Now, this is a very different approach. I know it's a challenging reform, but we want more people to get into home ownership. Some workers have to work for several years in order to work up the cost of stamp duty. So we want people to own their own home, be they workers or retirees wanting to downsize. We want to lift some of those bars as they relate to home ownership. OK. Now, I know it's just a plan to overhaul. I don't see this as reform at all because it's just replacing one tax, stamp duty, with another. Now, Chris Minns, ideally, this has appeal. But unless words have lost their meaning, doesn't land tax mean a tax on land? We already have one, but it's not on all land. Land tax currently is not paid on 2 million New South Wales properties. They have an exemption. 300,000 properties are burdened with $3 billion worth of land tax. So, Chris, what are we doing here?
Well, I've got real concerns about this proposal, to be honest with you, Alan. I mean, pointy heads have been waiting 50 years to put a tax on the family home, and they've finally got Dominic Perrottet to do the dirty work for them. I mean, think about this proposal, will you? If under this proposal, the family home gets taxed between $2,000 and $3,000 a year, they've got to trust everyone who takes up that land tax or buys a property that's got a land tax caveat on it, then has to trust Dominic Perrottet or Gladys Berejiklian that that property tax won't increase by more than inflation year after year. Not only that, they have to trust every future government, Labor, Liberal, Greens, Shooters or anyone else, that that land tax rate won't increase above inflation. So this could be a real difficulty for the New South Wales government, particularly when we've got $100 billion worth of net debt racked up by this government.
Absolutely. Now, Gareth, your home, I presume, is built on land. Would it be subject to a land tax?
No, and I'd actually challenge Chris to point to where in the proposal the family home will be taxed. In fact,
hang on,
family homes are not subject to land tax.
Gareth, under the modelling, families who choose a property tax would pay 0.3% on the unimproved land value, and this is under the modelling. I've seen the document. You should owner-occupiers will pay $500 plus 0.3%. They will be taxed.
That's not land tax. So we're talking about obviously a property tax if you choose not to pay stamp duty. I mean, I paid stamp duty when I bought my home. I'm sure you did, Alan, and everyone does. But the proposal is a choice.
You're saying you're going to get rid of stamp duty. Well, if you're going to get rid of stamp duty, you're taxing the family home.
Yes.
No.
Alan, he's having a lend here.
Alan, the proposal is a choice for taxpayers. If you want to pay stamp duty, you can pay stamp duty.
Hang on. But you started. The premise here is we've got to get rid of stamp duty. It's been going on since 1865. It's terrible. It's an unfair tax. And we're going to replace it with a property tax.
Alan.
OK, there are people on farms listening to you now, and let me tell you, the property tax for the farm will be 0.3% on the unimproved value of the land. Every farmer is going to be taxed unless we actually keep paying stamp duty. I'm just saying, Gareth, it ain't...
Alan, if you bought into your family home and you paid stamp duty...
He's scrambling, Alan.
There's no tax. No, you clearly don't understand it, Chris. I'm not going to be lectured by someone who wanted to tax tractors. Don't talk to me about farmers. You went to the last election wanting to tax small business and first home buyers. even more. What we're proposing is if you have paid stamp duty, you don't pay anything else. But if you're going into the property market and the stamp duty is a burden, then you have the option of choosing to pay a property tax over the longer term. It's a choice.
It's not a reform at all. It's a Clayton's tax. It's a tax when you don't have a tax. Chris, stamp duty is an impediment to home ownership. If you take a $600,000 home for a young couple, say for the sake of maths, $600,000, they're currently paying rent. They'd have to save 120 grand, and the land tax at about 4% about 24,000. So it is a barrier to entering the property market. And elderly people are in the same boat, aren't they? They want to downsize. They say face a similar disadvantage. But this is not replacing the stamp duty. Yeah. It's one tax being replaced by a property tax.
Can I just say in relation to that, the property market will boom after this reform comes in. If we're just putting the stamp duty on the ticket price of residential property, then we're just leaving families with a land tax that goes on forever. And I'll tell you something, Gareth, you shouldn't be running around New South Wales. You shouldn't be running around New South Wales.
Chris, I just want to interrupt on what you said there, because that's an important point. Once that option is taken, for example, if I choose to have a property tax, it stays on that property forever.
Yes.
The next buyer has to pay tax.
That's not a choice. That's not a choice, and Gareth should be upfront about it.
No. I mean, basically...
We've been upfront about the proposal.
Give me a break.
We're not doing things to people, Chris.
You will do this. You'll do it in May. You'll do it in May, and it will be forever. And it'll be $2,000 and $3,000 for property taxes forever. And you can't guarantee future governments won't jack up that tax. You can't do it.
Go and read the document.
It's only 10 pages.
You're clearly trying to confuse people.
Now, Garen, we're not trying to confuse anyone.
We're right and you're wrong, Gareth.
I have the modelling. I've got the modelling. The only occupier, if he OK, you're trying to eliminate stamp duty. OK, so supposing we eliminate it, then the owner-occupier pays tax and the investor pays tax, and that's a property tax, and the bloke owning a farm pays a property tax. My point to you, Gareth, and I'd say it to both of you, I have a golden rule. I worked for a Prime Minister once. Never, ever, ever present a policy to anybody, the electorate in the public place, unless all the detail is down and all the modelling is available. Now, Gareth, on that energy bill, which is diabolical by that bloke Keane, there is no modelling available to anyone. And it wasn't even available to the Cabinet, because I've got people in the Cabinet who tell me, Gareth, they haven't even seen the modelling. There's no modelling here that the public can see. Don't you think all the details should have been on the line before we start talking about it?
Well, Alan, the Treasurer, who I think you would agree is probably the best Treasurer in the nation, has said quite clearly we want to hear from hear from people. Well, that's what we've done, Chris. And I'd encourage you to make a submission. Well, Chris, are you going to make a submission?
Look, can I tell you something? I'll tell you this, Gareth. I'll tell you this. You are going to put a land tax on people forever, and you're presenting it as a choice, and it's not a choice. And you know you're doing it, and you're doing it in a willful fashion.
It's just rude to interrupt, Chris. I mean, Chris, interrupting people is an easy way to defeat yourself in an argument.
Yeah, but Gareth, Chris, final say to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. The government has privatised all of the revenue-generating assets. We're $100 billion in debt, and this proposal will increase the debt, not reduce it. And you have to trust the New South Wales government and all future governments not to increase property taxes if this proposal goes ahead. There's a lot of hairs on it.
We've run out of time. I'll just make one final point. No, Gareth, hang on. We'll be back next week. I've got to make one point. We do get $9 billion in this state in stamp duty. Chris is right. If we're in debt, you've got to recover that money, or you don't recover it, or you go into further debt. But look, thank you for both shouting at one another, and we'll see you all next week. Though I think Gareth is not going to be here next week. So, Gareth, have a wonderful Christmas. David Elliott is going to take your place next week.
Thank you both.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
Thank you both for your time.
Thanks, Chris.